crafty friends, it's Tina from the Scrappin Rabbit blog, and today I'm going to try something a little bit different. I have an idea of a card I want to make, and so I'm doing a video having no idea how my card is going to turn out because it's not something that I've done before that I'm doing a tutorial for. So I know I want to use these stamp sets, and I have an idea of what to do with these hearts. So let's get started and we'll put together a card. To make these cards, I went on Cricut Design Space, and these were from Birthday Bash, and I cut out 4 of them, and I had my Cricut go ahead and make a score line. So I'm going to go ahead and fold all of these. Well, before I fold them, I want to go ahead and distress the edges, and I'm going to use this Warren Lipstick Distress Ink, since it seems like it's pretty close, and it'll be enough to just give it some definition. Once I have my distressed hearts, I'm going to go ahead and fold them in half along the score line. Now that I have all of my hearts folded, I'm going to go ahead and take some glue and glue one side of a heart to the next heart. So like that. Once you have all of your hearts adhered together, you can go ahead and get your distress ink again just to distress these top edges now so that you don't have any white showing, especially if you were not using double-sided cardstock, like I was not using double-sided. So I'm just going to go through and get a little more distress ink on there to cover up the white for a more finished look. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my image, and what I did was I masked off the back line of the bucket from the Farmer's Market set. And then I used this sweet little panda, and then I masked off his body, bottom part, and then put him inside the bucket. So that'll make the basket for the balloon. And then now I have to color these guys up. The next thing I'm going to do is watercolor this background paper. And what I do is I use this painter's tape to tape my watercolor cardstock down. And since I don't want my cardstock to rip, I'm just going to try to get some of the sticky off of my tape. And so you could do it with your fingers, because sometimes the tape will actually end up ripping your cardstock. And so I just, at the very edges, tape my cardstock down to help prevent it from curling. And once you have that done, then you can go ahead and watercolor. So I have my little palette ready, and what I did was I used a couple distress inks, and I just stamped it onto my glass block, and I have my water and my paintbrush. And since I'm going to do a background, I'm going to use a bigger brush so that I could get bigger strokes on it. And I got a little dab on there, but that's okay because it's all going to be covered up. And I am definitely no expert at this, and I just kind of mess around with it and go with the flow. So I'm just getting my brush wet, and I'm just going to start somewhere in the middle, usually with my darker color, and just kind of spread it around. And then I can get some of my lighter color and bring it out towards the edge. These colors are not too different, so there's not going to be a huge variation with just the blues. Now I'm going to add some of this for a little bit more of a variation in color. And I just have an idea of where my image is going to go, so I'm just kind of going around to where I know where there will be opening. And then you can take a paper towel to lift up some of that water So now I think I want to bring in a little bit of purple. So I'm going to use a little bit of this shaded lilac and see how that looks. I've never done this before with these colors. These are all brand new to me, so I'm just going to give it a go and see how it looks. You can give it a little dry if you need to, and you want to add more water or go in to mix it around. Adding a little heat helps it dry a little bit faster, and then you can go back in and play with it a little more if you want. So in Design Space, I went ahead and cut out this card base and used the score line to go ahead and fold it in half. After much fussing, I decided that black was the best layer color to really make the panda pop. I changed my mind like 3 or 4 times, but I decided to go with black. My watercolor piece of paper is dry, and I fussy cut my little bear out, and I have my little heart to make the little balloon. And with my watercolor, after much fretting about that, I decided to do clouds, and I was trying to do clouds in different colors, and it just wasn't working out. So I ended up using vellum instead, which gave it a good effect, and I used this die to cut the clouds out. You can cut clouds out with the Cricut and add it on there in Design Space. That's perfectly fine. I really love the stitched look though of the dies, which is why I choose to use both dies and my Cricut for my crafting, because I love to have that stitched look on my projects. So I think the card's starting to come together, and then we'll have the little bear floating in the sky on his balloon. So I'm kind of happy it's turning out. I had no idea what I was going to make, and I think it's coming together. I've never done one of these hearts before. So now I just got to figure out where I'm going to adhere this, pick out a sentiment, and go from there. So I decided I'm going to use this sentiment here, and it says love you more. But what I want it to say is just love you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape off that last word, more, like that. And I'm going to go ahead and ink it up. It's going to go right there. Okay, so got my VersaFine ink because I want to emboss this, so I'm going to go ahead and get it all inked up. And then you'll remove the tape. Oh, doesn't want to come off my finger. Okay, and then just inspect your stamp to make sure that no ink got anywhere else but on the words that you want. And then you go ahead and stamp it on there where you choose. Okay, and I'm going to use some clear embossing powder to give it a finished shine. Now I'm going to use the heat embossing tool, and I like to run my gun for just a few seconds so that it's nice and hot when I bring it to my project, so it doesn't end up being on my project too long and warping the paper. There, that looks nice. And I think that that helps with the black to give it that nice pop. So I'm going to use some twine for the string, and what I did was I taped the twine to the back of how I wanted it to hang. And then I went ahead and popped it up with some foam tape because with watercolor paper, adhesive, it's really hard to have permanent adhesive on there, and I've noticed that over time stuff starts to pop up off of your whatever you glued on there. So I'll add either foam tape or a little bit of liquid glue anytime. That's what I did with here, is I added a little bit, I used my ATG with a little bit of liquid glue to help adhere it so that this does not start popping up over time. I have made cards with the watercolor paper and it does start to come apart. I gave one to my husband, and so I know that the watercolor thing, anything that was glued on here is starting to come off. So I'm learning what kind of adhesives are best for every project. So I'm hoping that I can put that down like that and it will stay adhered. And then we'll have the little bear, add him on there, and then we'll be almost done. Once I've determined where my bear is going to go, which I'm thinking about right there, I think that looks cute. So what I can do is I can just hold my string down like that, and I could go ahead and tape it. There, that'll work. And this is the excess, so I will go ahead and trim that off. And then I will use the foam tape again behind this little guy, and that will again add more strength to this to the glued string there. Help reinforce that. So then that will go like that, and it'll pop up and help to hold that string down as well. Let's see, do I want to add an extra piece? I think I'll be okay just like that. Alright, so everything is adhered together, and rarely when I finish a card am I ever happy with it, so I'm not very happy right now, but I'm going to, I think I want to add, I think it needs some sparkly something, so I cut out these little glitter cardstocks, and so I'm just trying to, glitter cardstock hearts, and I'm just trying to figure out what to do to give it just a little bit more. So let me see what I can come up with. Okay, here is my finished card. I added a few sparkly heart die cuts, and I think that it added just the right finishing touch. And so this card, I'm not sure if I'm going to use it for Valentine's. It could be a birthday card, it could be an I miss you card, it could be pretty flexible, so I'm going to wait to do the inside, which is now blank. I usually put a layer or two of cardstock on the inside to help balance out the weight of the front of the card, so that way when you stand it up it doesn't fall forward like it does now. If you add a few layers on the inside, then it can sit up just fine for the recipient if they want to put it on display. But there it is. I hope you liked my video. I hope you had fun. I had fun trying to figure out what the heck I was going to make, and I think it came out together being pretty cute. I'm usually more planned and calculated. So anyways, happy crafting everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye!